So I'm on LinkedIn. Don't know why. I don't know. Hopefully it will help me later on in life with careers, whatever. But this showed up on my feed. Do people just think you can stand outside of a Planned Parenthood and people are just going to be like, oh, you? Off the street? Yeah, adopt my baby. Because I don't think that's how that works. Or maybe it is how it works, and that's why we have so many unstable, unfit adoptive parents, because they're just found off the road. I think adoption is actually the exploitation of pregnant moms in need, but I don't think we're ready to hear that yet. How is she going to help? She's like 10. And of course, if you look all the way up, he's with the Catholic media. So Bethany Christian Services? I don't know. The Catholics seem to be like the most screwed up with adoption. But this whole post says cringe. Like, no thank you. Ugh.
This content creator, I scrolled through their social media and this person actually was adopted and had a really painful experience of adoption. So if you're watching this video, hearing me respond to you, I want you to know my heart goes out to you and I'm so sorry you had a traumatic experience being adopted. I care so much for you, and adoption has touched my family. My dad and his identical twin were adopted shortly after birth. So adoption is in my family. I am here today because of adoption, really. So, when I respond to this, I just want you to know the concept of adoption is not something that's just conceptual in my mind, but something that's touched me really like every day of my childhood because of my dad, and like it's touched generations in my family. Not only was my dad and his twin adopted, but my grandparents also adopted another girl who's my aunt, and so adoption really has touched my life. There are cases when adoption can tragically go on where there's an unfit family. And I just think that's so awful when that happens. And I'm so sorry to anyone who's experienced that. If you were an adopted child and you ended up adopted by a family that wasn't loving, I'm so sorry. I wish you had received a family that cared for you the way you deserved. But I do want to respond to this part of the video where this individual is talking about people standing outside Planned Parenthood and offering to adopt babies. So I've done something really similar to what the people in this video did. I didn't have a sign that's like, hey, I'll adopt your baby, but I have offered women alternatives to abortion by standing outside abortion clinics. And this is actually something that Planned Parenthood employees, so the abortion clinic staff, have admitted that whenever there is a pro-life presence outside an abortion clinic, less abortions occur that day. So women will not show up. At least some of the women will not come at all to their abortion clinics just by nature of there being a pro-life presence outside. Now, to really get at the heart of why I support private counseling, let's talk for a second about what abortion is. So when we look at the biology, we know that humans reproduce after their own kind because we're mammals. So when two human beings, a human man and a human woman, they reproduce together, the species of their offspring will be human from the moment of fertilization. So as soon as sperm-egg fusion has occurred, that's a brand new separate human being. That is a distinct, living, and whole human. And they are self-directing their own development when they receive help and support from their mom with nutrition and safety. With abortion, what happens is that sweet, tiny, precious little human is targeted with violence. And I'm not sure if the person who made this video has taken time to research abortion procedures and what they are. So I just want to take a second because I think everybody deserves to fully understand what abortion is, because there's a lot of disinformation around it. The abortion industry always wants to sanitize our understanding of abortion, so we'll agree with it more because it's always harder to support something that has to do with basically killing a person and killing relationships with that child through abortion when we sanitize it. So let's talk about that for a second. So there are different types of abortion procedures, and one type of abortion involves injecting the fetal heart with what's called feticide, which is fetus killing, right? So fetus is just Latin for offspring. So tiny baby gets killed with an injection of potassium chloride into their heart. There's been research, you can look this up right now, that adults who have an injection of potassium chloride for some type of medical treatment at a much lower dose say it felt like liquid fire, burning. That's what these poor babies experience at times. There are other forms of abortion. One that's very common is dismemberment or suction abortion. The baby is like suctioned into pieces into a suction canister. Their bodies are cut apart into little pieces. The abortion pill starves an unborn baby. Literally, they don't have the nutrition they need. The progesterone's cut off in the body of the mom, and then the baby just slowly dies. It's absolutely a tragedy. Whatever form of abortion is used, however it happens, if it's one of those ways or some other way, it is always the direct and intentional killing of an innocent human. It's wrong, and it's a human rights violation. By scrolling this content creator's social media, I recognize that there may be a bit of an attitude that somehow abortion is better than a difficult life. It's not, though. You know, you as a specific person, I'm talking to the content creator here, like, you experienced, you know, being adopted, and I'm so sorry that it was a painful experience, but I just want to point out that you deserved to be protected from violence in the womb. You had a right to be safe from being hurt, and I'm so sorry your childhood was so painful. I just want to point out that you being killed wasn't the solution to that or to anybody else, right? We need to protect life in the womb and then do the best we can to create wonderful lives for kids once they're born. So I believe in a culture where we subject tiny babies to violence, that it makes sense that in that same culture we're going to have other problems where parents might be neglectful or harmful to their kids, because it's all stemming from the same problem of believing that children aren't important, that human life is not valuable, and that family relationships don't matter, and however we treat people is just inconsequential. But that's not true. Every child has a right to be protected from harm, and that includes people who are in difficult adoption experiences. Just coming back to my own personal experience, I know obviously I'm just one person. My dad is just one person who's experienced adoption. Adoption, I think no matter how it's gone about, it is traumatic for everybody, and it's just hard. And it's definitely a part of being in a fallen world, because I think God made us for a perfect world where there's no sin and there's no pain and there's no suffering. And part of being in a world where there is sin and pain and suffering, sadly, sometimes people give birth to children they can't raise, or there can be those extreme cases where this content creator was talking about. Sometimes there are those cases where like adoption agencies are going after women and trying to take their baby. And I'm so sorry to the moms who go through that, because it's such a devastating, awful thing. But specifically when we have those cases where maybe the mom is not able to raise a child, they choose to place the child for adoption, that is really hard. That there is trauma for the mom, because she has a bond with that baby. She's been, you know, helping that baby and growing that baby in development for 9 months. And then there's this transition now to living with another family. It's very hard. I've heard birth mothers share firsthand about, even though they may feel like it was the right decision to help the child to have a different family to grow with, it's still painful for sure for the mom. And obviously for the baby, there's tragically always going to be some trauma associated with not getting to be raised by the person that gave birth to you. So it's really something where we try to bring hope and healing into a really hard and difficult situation with adoption. And adoption is always a better alternative than being dismembered in your mother's womb, than being poisoned, than being starved to death. None of those are an appropriate response to a child coming to exist in a difficult situation. So, although yes, adoption can be really challenging, I just want to say, second generation from being adopted, and yes, that it does have some painful ways that it affects people for sure. There's no question about that. But by my grandmother, who I sadly don't even know her. I would love to meet her someday. My biological grandma gave birth to my dad and his twin. She chose life. She didn't have an abortion. Because of that, I'm here today. And she chose to place my dad for adoption. I don't know why or what the circumstances were around that, but I'm so thankful for her sacrifice, because in not having an abortion, not having my dad killed in the womb, I get to be here. My siblings get to be here. Any future generations that come from us get to be here. So although adoption is very hard and it can cause trauma to both mom and baby, it is always better, if it's going to be adoption or killing the baby, to always choose adoption rather. If there's a way we can support moms so that they feel empowered to raise their own kids, that is even better, because I think it's great for moms to give birth to their child if they're able to raise them. And I think we should empower them with the support and resources so they feel like they can do that. That's one of the reasons why I love the website optionline.org. They offer women free resources of support. So if you're there facing an unplanned pregnancy and you're like, I don't know if I can raise my own child, there are support resources for you. You're not alone, and you can do this. You'll be a great mom. At the end of the day, we have to remember every single human life is valuable, even when they come to exist at a difficult time. So yes, children who are born of maybe an unplanned pregnancy or a difficult situation and placed for adoption, they have a right to life. Let's have more side-by counselors outside abortion clinics offering support, offering help. That's a great thing. It's part of how we bring an end to abortion, is by offering women alternatives. So I hope this content creator, I actually genuinely, I'm praying for you today for healing from that adoption experience, because I know that goes deep, and I actually listened to your story of your adoption and it sounds like it was traumatic, and I'm so sorry you went through that. There's healing available to you, and know that you had a right to live and to exist from the moment you were first conceived in your mother's womb. As a single-celled embryo, you had a right to be protected from violence, and you are wanted, and you are important to our world, and I'm glad you're here. So let's also protect not only you, but every human life in the womb.